I will now call to order this December 9th, 2025 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Land Use Hearing, and I'll turn to our clerk. Would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Helm,
Here.
Commissioner Savas,
Present.
Mr. Chair,
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. A quorum is present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Clerk, would you please introduce the item under consideration today and explain the hearing order for us?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Before the board today are file numbers Z0247-25 and Z0248-25, which are a proposed comprehensive plan map amendment from low-density residential to high-density residential, and a corresponding zone change from urban low-density residential to high-density residential. The property is owned by Rose Villa and is located on Southeast River Road. Today's hearing will proceed in three main steps: presentation, testimony, and deliberation. First, the board will receive a presentation from staff about the files. Second, the chair will open a public hearing for testimony. The chair has established the order for testimony as follows. First, the applicant or the representative will have the first opportunity to speak, up to 15 minutes. Next, any member of the Planning Commission will have 3 minutes. Next, any public officials who wish to testify will have 3 minutes. Next, representatives from recognized community planning organizations and agencies will have 3 minutes. And lastly, all other members of the public wishing to testify will have 3 minutes each. In the third and final step of the hearing, the board will deliberate and either render a decision today or set a later date to make a decision. Now, if you're ready to begin, Mr. Chair, Assistant County Counsel Caleb Hugel will make a required legal statement, and once he is finished with the statement, Principal Planner Martha Fritzie will begin the staff presentation. So with your permission, Mr. Chair, I'll now turn to counsel.
All right.
Thank you. This is a quasi-judicial land use hearing, which means several important things for those participating. First, the applicable substantive criteria are listed in the staff report. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward either those criteria or other criteria that the person believes apply to the decision. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the county and other parties an opportunity to respond precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. In addition, the failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the county to respond precludes an action for damages in circuit court on those issues. Once final, the decision on this application may be appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals. At this time, I will ask the commissioners to disclose any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest. Please indicate the nature and extent of the ex parte contact, bias, or conflict of interest, and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. If anyone wishes to challenge the impartiality of any commissioner, please clearly indicate your intention to do so in any testimony you provide. Commissioners?
I have no conflict.
No conflict.
Okay, I guess that's me. Good morning, I'm Martha Fritzie with County's Planning and Zoning, and I am going to briefly step through the proposal and the recommendations. So as was noted, we are here today for to consider a proposed comprehensive plan map amendment with a corresponding zone change from urban low density to high density residential. This change is being proposed to facilitate an expansion for Rose Villa Senior Living Community and would provide some additional senior-oriented housing. Although there is no actual development included in this proposal, future development, if the zoning is changed, would necessarily have to go through a design review process and additional land use approvals. And so as part of this proposal also, there is a request to remove a specific condition of approval in an old land use file from 2009. I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But just generally, that condition limited Rose Villa's ability to develop on the east side of River Road. The properties that we're talking about today there's 2 tax lots. They are on the east side of River Road at the corner of Southeast Torbank and Southeast River Road. They are zoned R10, an urban low-density residential zone. Combined, they contain about 1.15 acres, and they are immediately east and across River Road from the main senior living campus that Rose Villa has developed over the last several decades. Next slide. This is a little bit more zoomed out view that identifies on the west side of River Road, Rose Villa's other properties and the development that they've done so far for their senior living campus. The sites themselves on the east side there are relatively flat. They are currently developed with a duplex on one of the lots, a large garage, and some parking area. There was a house, it looks like, on the other lot, and that house has since been demolished. The surrounding area is primarily residential, and there's a mix of residential uses. There's high-density residential, there's 2 senior living campuses on the west side of River Road, and some multifamily housing just north of that. Immediately surrounding the subject properties is lower density residential. There's some older single-family homes. There's some older multifamily development. There's some newer middle housing. And then immediately east of the property, abutting the southeast corner, is an elementary school and associated playing fields. This is a really busy slide, I understand that, but most of the yellow and orange is residential zoning, and I just wanted you to see that it is primarily surrounded by residential zoning. Over east of the property, that hot pink is McLaughlin Boulevard. As the crow flies, this site is about a half-mile west of McLaughlin. Driving distance is a little bit farther. You'd have to go down Courtney Road, which is just south of the subject properties here. Go ahead. So as is required, notice was sent out of these applications to property owners within 300 feet, to any potentially affected agencies, and to the state. Notice was sent on October 20th of this past year. We received no comments from the public. The only comment we've received was actually from our county engineering staff, who reviews the applicant's traffic study and then provides a comment, and in this case, the staff concurred with the findings in the applicant's traffic study. The local CPO is Oak Grove. Notice was sent to them, but they did not, as of today, provide any comments. So there's a whole lot of relevant policies and criteria, per usual, for comp plan zone change, including statewide planning goals, county comprehensive plan goals and policies, because this is in the Portland metropolitan area, Metro's urban growth management functional plan, and then the county's zoning and development ordinance. All of the applicable criteria and findings are detailed in the staff report that was drafted for the Planning Commission that was in your packet. I'm just going to touch on a few of them quickly and talk about them generally in the context of the 4 main zone change criteria, because they all sort of wrap up to the other requirements. And so in this case, the first zone change criteria is that the proposed zone change is consistent with the applicable goals and policies in the comprehensive plan. And in this case, there were a number of chapters that needed to be reviewed. A lot of the policies are procedural. But then it was found that this proposal supports a number of policies in the comprehensive plan, including increased housing choice and variety, and then most importantly, it meets all of the requirements in the comprehensive plan for a high-density residential designation, and it complies with the transportation planning rule. The second main criteria is that if there are any public services needed, that they are available and sufficient for development that it could occur under the new zoning district. And in this case, that's demonstrated through statements of feasibility from the local water and service and storm water provider. And this case, it's Oak Lodge, and the applicant has provided those statements of feasibility. And then the last 2 have to do with the transportation system, both that the transportation system will remain adequate and safe, if this change happens. And in this case, there was a traffic study submitted by the applicant that concluded that this proposal would not have a significant effect on the adequacy or the safety of the transportation system. And like I mentioned, county engineering has reviewed this and concurred. So there was a supplemental traffic analysis that was provided, and this analysis was directly related to safety and that condition that I mentioned in the previous land use application. And so in 2009, Rose Villa had come in for a design review and essentially created a master plan for the campus on the west side of River Road. And as part of that, there was a condition of approval put on that master plan through the design review that required Rose Villa to eliminate all operations on the east side of Southeast River Road. And that was primarily due to access and pedestrian safety concerns. As far as we can tell, the findings were not super detailed. And so what the applicant's traffic engineer did was take a look at how conditions may have changed since 2009, because of course they have, and identified a number of things that have changed that affect access and safety. And for one, Rose Villa has actually reduced the number of accesses than was originally approved and built at the time in 2009. Importantly, the pedestrian crossing, which is right in front of the subject properties that goes across River Road to the Rose Villa campus, has been upgraded to a flashing beacon as opposed to just, a striped pedestrian crossing. The speed on a portion of River Road in front of the subject properties the speed limit has been reduced from 35 to 30. And the intersection just south of the subject properties at Courtney and River Road has had a number of improvements, is now a four-way stop, which has served to slow and meter traffic a little bit more. And so ultimately, because of all these changes and because of the fact that the access now for Rose Villa now meets the county standards, the traffic engineer concluded that condition that would limit the operations on the east side of River Road is no longer needed. It's no longer necessary, and so the removal of it is warranted. Thanks. So we took this proposal before the Planning Commission. They had a public hearing on November 24th. There was no public testimony at that hearing. There were really no significant issues that arose. There was some discussion about, if pedestrians would be crossing River Road to go to the amenities on the West Side campus with future development. But ultimately, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve these files. So in conclusion, this proposal does meet all the applicable criteria for the comprehensive plan map amendment and zone change to high-density residential. The removal of the condition in the old file Z014809D is warranted, and staff also recommends approval of these two files. And that does include both the comp plan zone change and the removal of that condition from the 2009 file. And that's it.
Thank you. So I now get to turn to my colleagues for questions. You have something?
Do we need to do that removal today? Should that be part of a motion, Martha?
It's just part of the file.
Okay.
So if,
It's part of the application, it's baked in.
yes.
Okay,
So by
it's
approving-
baked in. Okay, I wasn't sure if it needed to be
That's what I was trying to say.
as part of it, because it's not part of one of our choices.
Right. Commissioner Savas.
Well, first of all, I'm actually surprised that there was no public input, and also surprised that the Oak Grove Community Council did not chime in. So I was around when that was implemented, and I've gone across that crosswalk frequently, several times, dozens, probably hundreds of times. And while I am maybe perhaps younger and fitter to cross that, some of the residents who live there are not, and they move very slowly. Been brought to my attention as recently as Friday not about this, but about crosswalks in general, that, and this is very true for the Rose Villa development, that parking on River Road is a common thing. People park often. It's rarely, you don't see any cars parked on there, and especially near where the crosswalk is. And where the crosswalk is, if there are cars parked, and even the flashing beacons is appreciated, that's an improvement. That was done quite a long time ago. The four-way stop at Courtney and River Road, that's an improvement. I appreciate that. I think that's had a real effect. But when there's cars parked in there, and the flashing lights are flashing, people can't see a person standing on the curb because a car is blocking the line of sight from vehicles, especially going southbound on River Road. That's a common thing I've heard. Very similar to concerns I've heard at Willamette View, similar concerns I've heard on Concord. As our business meeting, we talked about that too, that when cars are blocking the crosswalk, you cannot see the person standing there. When I see someone standing on the curb, and I know are they gonna cross, or are they just waiting for a bus, right? I'm always making that decision. I slow down anyhow. But if you can't see them, you can't see them. And so I argue that the safety issue, it really isn't there addressed. So, and I'm almost curious, frankly, to want to talk to members of the community council and actually see if they actually entertain this or were aware of this change. I'm okay with the other part, but I've got some reservations about ZO 148-09.
All right, thank you. Did you have a comment, Commissioner?
No, I'm just wondering, can they yellow line before that so that there is a sight line of pedestrians if they were to be waiting to cross? I mean, if you didn't have cars all the way up to the crosswalk, but say 2-3 cars back, it was a no parking, kind of hash marked area, wouldn't that help? I don't know.
I'm not a traffic engineer, so I'm trying to visualize what you're proposing.
Well,
I'm
you're
not sure I
trying to
do.
open a sight line, right? And
Right.
if you have cars all the way up to a crosswalk, you don't. But if say 3-4 cars back or 3-4 car links away from a crosswalk, it's visible, it's open, you can see a person standing there.
Yeah. This is, I think that, I don't know what the right distance is, but that would be something that ought to be considered. That I can get more comfort with that. I'm just speaking for my perspective in history and knowing that. Again, I'm maybe not that young, but I'm at least fit enough to run across the street or dodge. But some of the people that are in walkers can't.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not seen, and sometimes they're hunched over,
Yeah.
and because they're using a walker,
Right.
and you can't see them.
Right.
And I have to apply the brakes suddenly when I see someone, because sometimes the flashing lights flash, but there's no one there.
Right.
And if you can't see them, you think there's no one there. So it's a safety issue. And also, the other thing, all due respect, I forgot to mention this, I'm sorry, but there's also been concerns about development on the east side, whether it's here at this particular Rose Villa or whether it's at Willamette View, is that there's concerns I've heard from neighbors. Why? Again, I'm a little bit surprised that there was no input, but that's the only one I got reservations about. Just put that on the table. I know we haven't opened the hearing yet, but I'm just putting that on the table. I don't have any questions for Martha, so I'll leave it there.
All right, well, if there's no more questions, we'll move on to the public testimony portion. So I will now open the meeting for public testimony, and I'll turn to our clerk to please moderate the in-person and virtual testimony for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, does the applicant wish to testify? Please come forward, introduce yourselves. You will have up to 15 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate Martha for presenting the project at hand. I think Jim is a representative of Rose Villa and wants to make a comment. So.
My name is Jim Williford. I'm the Vice President of Development for Rose Villa. Thank you for hearing us today. So I understand Commissioner Savis's comments in regards to the crosswalk. I just want to draw attention to a couple of things. There is in fact, no parking that's adjacent to the crosswalk, so I don't have an image, but If you look closely at that intersection, the sidewalk bumps out for the crosswalk. There's a button to push to flash the lights, so they don't flash unless someone pushes that button. And there's no parking that's adjacent to the crosswalk. There's a bump out to the south, and to the north, there's quite a distance before there's parking that's allowed just by curb cuts or the shape of the road.
Thank you.
I also will just say, our residents cross that crosswalk probably, I don't know, a lot, because the trolley trails across the street, because they go down to the school and walk their dogs in the school playground area. Our residents are very capable. They are safe. We've never had an incident with an accident with a resident on that crosswalk. I think a traffic engineer is the appropriate person to analyze whether or not it's safe to cross that crosswalk. And I'm certainly not capable of doing so, but I think the residents are capable of deciding if it's safe for them to make that crossing.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No, I had prepared a presentation, but it pretty much reiterates the same points that were made from the staff report. But yes, we did receive a recommendation from the Planning Commission and are here to answer any other questions from the commissioners.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments. That gives us a little peace of mind about the safety of that intersection, knowing that there's no parking along that area.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but my comment and my words were very deliberate. Southbound, it is an issue. If you're traveling southbound in a car, that line of sight is going to be a challenge. I understand, you're right, there is some space there where there's no parking, but it is challenging, especially at night. The other issue is that, and maybe I do have a question for Martha later, but it's more along the lines of just having it a conditional use approval. Is it that big of a deal? Because if you were going to add housing on the east side, there's going to be a lot more traffic, foot traffic, crossing the street for services at Rose Villa, the main campus. So today, it may not be as big of an issue because you're right, it's the trolley trail, it's the little parking lot they have across the street, and of course, staff use that. They go across the street all the time from the parking, no, not the parking, but their facilities there. I know it well, but I'm just have no idea of the amount of volume of traffic, foot traffic that would be there if something was developed on that site.
All right. So if there's no other comments, we'll go ahead and move on. Clerk?
Chair, forgive me, we'll continue with our preset order for other opportunities to speak.
Okay.
Assuming that the applicant is finished.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, is there a representative from the Planning Commission that wishes to testify?
Not today.
And I see none online, so we'll move on. Are there any public officials who wish to testify? And I see none online. Are there any representatives from any community planning organizations or agencies that wish to testify? And I see none online. And finally, this is a last call for any members of the public who wish to comment either in person or virtually. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either physically or virtually present, who wish to speak on this matter today.
Thank you, Andrew. I will now close the public testimony and we'll proceed to our deliberations.
So Chair, I have a question for staff.
Go ahead.
Martha, could you please tell me what impediments, if ZO 148-09-D is not removed, what is really the reality or the challenge for any development across it? Is it, for the condition of approval, can you just give me a thumbnail sketch of any impediments it would be towards development? It wouldn't stop development, it would just mean a condition of approval, correct?
So it's kind of interesting. We typically don't have conditions of approval that dictate who can and cannot develop property. And so this is a bit of an unusual one from 2009. I mean, the fact of the matter is the property could develop right now with housing, with middle housing, probably at near the density of high-density housing anyway, if it could fit. And so if this property were changed to a high-density residential, it could be developed, you know, where the condition of approval ties in is that it essentially says it can't be developed as part of Rosevilla's campus. And quite frankly, the basis for that, in the 2009 file had to do with safety and access. And essentially Rosevilla was being given additional access that didn't meet the standard at the time, was being approved for that, sort of in lieu of being able to develop on the other side of the road. And it's interesting, to say the least. It's not something that we typically would do now. I'm not 100% sure what the basis was for that condition. But it's there, and presumably we would have to enforce it. And like anyone else could come in and develop on that property, in theory, and those people could walk across the street. And so it's an unusual issue that we've come across. And I think a couple of important things to keep in mind are that for the zone change, the comp plan zone change, I mean, the criteria relates directly to sort of safety of the transportation system. But there will be another opportunity to look specifically at access for both vehicles and pedestrians on this property when it comes in for design review and there's actual development proposed on the property. And so there are other additional criteria that have to be met for access and safety at that time.
Thank you for that. You know, the other part I do remember as you were speaking, Martha, is that, and I was talking to number of the neighbors and parents, you know, there's a school at the end of Torbank, relatively adjacent to the trolley trail, so, which is a path. So that was a issue then, is still an issue now as far as kids' safety access to getting to school back and forth. Unrelated to Rosevilla, certainly, but I totally get that, but just want to put that on the table, that it was the safety issues that I recall as a primary reason, and the secondary reason recently is that because of the substantial development of Willamette View on the east side, and potentials for east side, that ties in the concerns as well. That's why I'm surprised that no one spoke to that. You're right, HB 2001 kind of gives them the ability to do it anyway. I'm just concerned that as I mentioned last week, this parking issue is extremely bothersome when transit is being reduced in our county. It's not being improved or increased to meet all these ideals that they're ideals, but the transit actually is not happening to the level it should have, and so therefore people are parking on the street more and more and more.
All right. Any further comments? Guess I would turn to, is there a motion?
I move we approve files Z0247-25 and Z0248-25 as recommended by staff and the Planning Commission.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Helm has moved to approve files Z0247-25 and Z0248-25 as recommended by staff and Planning Commission. It's been seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Is there any further discussion?
Chair, just one other question I have. I'm on the fence right now on this. What was the notification requirements for this application?
300 feet. And to affected agencies and the community planning organization. Sorry, it's really loud.
So 300 feet of each of these parcels, or 300 feet of the headquarters?
300 feet of the parcels, of the boundary, of the rectangle that includes the two parcels.
And I was at the CPO meeting last week and they didn't bring it up at all.
Yeah, I don't think they knew about it, actually. Judging on my conversation I had with someone on Friday morning. So
All right. Any further discussion?
they should have known about it.
Seeing none, I think we'll turn and ask the clerk to call the poll.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Helm,
Aye.
Commissioner Savis,
We just have some unknowns here. I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 3 with 1 abstention, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Great, that concludes our business evening this morning, and I'll turn to Andrew. Do we have anything else?
No, but I will look at council one more time to ask them if there's any other matters they need at this point.
Chair, would you like to direct staff to draft a decision reflecting the vote today and come back to you at a future business meeting for your approval?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we will return this afternoon at 1:30 for our policy session and our quarterly budget committee meeting, and with that, we'll be adjourned. See you soon.